Hi, I'm Michelle Sakurka. The New Jersey Business and Industry Association is committed to educating the public about the important issues impacting New Jersey's businesses and economy. That's why we're proud to support the important programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey Resources, the law firm of Gibbons PC, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, NJM Insurance Group, International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, and by the Northeast Regional Council of Carpenters. Promotional support provided by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, and by Observer New Jersey Politics.
Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio. It is an honor and pleasure to introduce another major, significant candidate running for governor in a great state of New Jersey. We have Jim Johnson joining us, Democrat running for governor. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing well. Good to see you, Steve.
You're running why?
I'm running because, like you, I was born and raised in the state, and I feel in my bones that something has been terribly, terribly wrong. Our taxes are too high, inequality is extraordinary, and we can't even get to our jobs safely, whether or not we're in our cars or on our trains. Things have to change, and what I represent and what I'm prepared to do is actually bring a whole different approach to governance in the state that really puts the people first, puts them in the driver's seat, and gets things moving in the right direction in the state.
Jim, one of the things we've done on State of Affairs with every candidate we've spoken to, including Phil Murphy and Senator Wisniewski, Senator Wisniewski and Senator Lesniak, on the Democratic side, is we've asked specifically on this pension crisis. I don't know if it's $80 billion or more, the unfunded liability. I mean, it's in trouble. It's a real crisis. You know it. Specifically, what would you do to get the pension situation back on track after Governor Christie has made a significant 2.5, if you will, billion-dollar commitment in this budget of a $35 billion budget? Big chunk. Would you have put more money in a $35 billion budget, state money, into the public employee pension fund more than Governor Christie?
What I would do going forward is increase the payments to the pension fund. I think that there are a couple of things we have to look at seriously. We've made some bad judgments on taxes, and so I'm prepared to look at increasing to a sensible level our estate taxes. They were
Which ones?
They are our estate taxes. They were way too high. Estate taxes. They were way too high. They were cut down to zero. We need to get to an equitable level. I'm prepared to do that.
Hold on, before you go past that, you would increase the estate tax.
It was cut.
That's right.
Tremendously.
In an effort to try to, the argument was, the rationale was, and Democrats and Republicans supported it, not all, the argument was if the estate tax combined with the inheritance tax, the so-called double death tax, was in place, you had more and more New Jerseyans potentially leaving the state as they got older, didn't want to die with a double tax, go to Florida or God knows where else. New Jersey loses that revenue, you lower the estate tax. You say, raise it back up?
Not to the same level it was. The level was too high. It was way too high. It was out of control. And it was almost to the point of being confiscatory. But then taking it down to such a low level when we had all these other budget problems to solve didn't make any sense either. People are leaving the state for a variety of reasons. They're leaving the state because they can't get to work on time. They're leaving the state because their property tax is too high. They're leaving the state because whatever level that we're paying in our taxes, the government services that we get are unacceptable. And so we need to look at the entire package and turn it around, but we need to be mindful of the fact that to our those who have paid into their pensions, we've made a promise. I lived in a family where someone made a promise to my family about payments that they were going to make, didn't make it. We almost lost our home. some of our families in our state employees are looking at those same sort of choices, and the governor has to be frank about that.
One more quick question on this before we move to some other fiscal matters. For new public employees coming into the system, given how fiscally unstable it is, Jim, would you argue, you know what? Right now, it is smart, it makes sense, it is prudent to renegotiate with new employees coming in and saying maybe the health care benefits shouldn't be what they are right now, and potentially the retirement benefits shouldn't be what they are right now. Not for those who are in the system right now, grandfathered in, because they were made a commitment. But new employees, are you open to that renegotiation?
Job one, keep the commitments that are already made. We have to do that. But job two is create a system that is strong, for sure, but makes sense and is sustainable. And right now, we're not in a position where our system is sustainable.
So are you open? I want to be
absolutely, yes,
okay.
I'm open.
Talk to me about driving the economy, bringing more jobs, creating more economic vitality in the state. How would you do it?
I would make investments in emerging industries and mid-size companies.
For example?
For example, let's take an example of a state that's done it very well. In Massachusetts, they decided that they were going to combine the resources of the state. And they've got terrific universities. They have terrific hospitals. They decided that one of their competitive advantages was investing in life sciences, investing in biotech, investing in pharmaceuticals. And they were actually able to snatch jobs and companies from New Jersey. We have comparative advantages in the areas of sort of logistics and warehousing, in technology still, and in other areas. And we have students coming out that are being prepared to fill those jobs. That's where we should make our investment. Because one of the big challenges to the state is that we're losing young people because they see opportunity elsewhere and not here. And over time, that's really going to cause the state to go into decline.
What's your beef with your Democratic colleagues?
My beef is with the system. The system is one in which, particularly now, when we have the opportunity to have a robust discussion about inequality in the state, about the economy, we have run a set of primaries, and we actually haven't run a primary, in which the decisions seem to have been made by a handful of insiders long before the voters were engaged in the process and are part of the discussion about what's important to change in this state. When people are shut out of the process, you get bad decisions, and that's what we've got.
But you're in it. I mean, you qualified for public financing,
That's right.
which is to your credit. You raised a significant, how much money did you have to raise to do that?
$430,000.
You raised $430,000.
Yes.
You get public financing. By the way, this is a good educational opportunity for folks. And by the way, if you want to ask a question of the candidates running for governor, both during the primary season and in the general election, our team is going to put up the information as to how to do that on social media, and also there's going to be a spot coming up in just a few seconds to do that. Please participate in that conversation. We look forward to the great folks watching public broadcasting, FiOS, and every other digital platform to be part of that conversation. But you're in the primary, but you're saying it's not a primary.
No, I'm in the primary. It's absolutely a primary. And the thing that matters is June 6th, the vote on June 6th. What my beef is folks taking the position that it's already over. It's not over. It's absolutely not over. The polls show that the race is wide open. As I move around the state, I feel momentum because whether or not I'm talking to folks in Summit or in Newark or in Montclair or in Camden, people are attracted to my message. They're attracted not only to the message, but to the man. And this is a time, particularly post the election of Donald Trump, where people want real change.
You understand the federal government more than most. Real quick, before we're talking about Trump, your federal background, the Clinton administration was?
I was Undersecretary of the Treasury for Enforcement, which meant that the ATF, the Secret Service, the Customs Service, and a number of other entities all reported to me. That's $4.6 billion of operating budget and 29,000 people that reported to me either directly or indirectly. And I did that first as Assistant Secretary, then Undersecretary for 4 years.
What's your greatest concern about Donald Trump as it relates to his administration as we tape this program in mid-April 2017 as it relates to New Jersey in particular?
Well, there are two big concerns. One is values. The values that his administration has shown in their budget and in his pronouncements are ones that suggest that the government should have a policy of cruelty and excluding those as opposed to bringing people together.
One example.
One example is the immigration policy and immigration approach. Shortly after he was elected, one of my kids is a teacher in the Bronx, and she reported that her students were in the classroom crying. They're children from immigrant families, and they felt like this country had no place for him. That is wrong, and it's why one of the first things I announced as a candidate was an immigration council, which is essentially a task force that would combine the forces of the Attorney General and others in state government to provide assistance to communities that are thinking about becoming sanctuary communities, and also help families deal with this crisis.
We both live in the community of Montclair. Our taxes are relatively high.
Our taxes are very high. Is there a question?
I was trying to be PC. We live in the same neighborhood, so I know how high they are.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Property taxes disproportionately go to paying our schools, for schools, right? Well, that's where a high piece or a high percentage of our property taxes go. What would you say to some communities around this state who say, you know what, we're getting screwed, we're getting shortchanged, and the school funding formula in the state dollars going to local communities makes no sense anymore, and we need to change the school funding formula? Governor says it, others say it, you say?
First of all, one of the reasons our taxes are so high is that the school funding formula hasn't been fully funded. But secondly, one of the things that I am campaigning against is the idea that it's us against them, that it's kids in Newark versus the kids in Montclair. They are all of our children, and we have a responsibility. In fact, if we make the right sorts of investments for a lot of the children that don't have the assets that our kids have, it pays dividends down the line, and we should be sensible about that. So I would work with the school funding formula, but make sure, as Governor Florio and Governor Kane says, that we're actually providing quality pre-K for all students. That's an investment that makes sense.
But let me push back a little bit.
Yes.
You don't want to renegotiate with public employees who are in there right now. There's a massive fiscal problem with the pension. We want to fully fund school funding. I got to ask you, where exactly would the additional revenue come from to pay for this, Jim?
I would do something that hasn't been done before, at least not in the recent past, is say, listen, we have to phase these things in, make priorities of what we can do when. We absolutely can't fund everything that would be my goals all at once, but we set priorities, and then we set goals to build towards that. I mean, we grew up in the age of the Apollo moonshot. Kennedy didn't know exactly what it was going to take to get men on the moon by the end of our first decade, but he set a goal. That's what we should be shooting for, and leadership is about that.
You mentioned leadership. Last question I've asked every candidate running for governor and other prominent, important, significant public and other kinds of leaders. The number one leadership lesson you have learned in your professional life that you would take into the governorship would be?
Never forget who sent you, and never forget why you do the job, which is to serve. That is the first, and it should be the last question that you ask yourself every day. What am I going to do to serve the people of the state of New Jersey, and what have I done to serve the people of the state of New Jersey? And that's what I will do as governor.
Jim, you get a lot of credit for being in the arena. It's easy to criticize and, do what some others do, but you chose to be in it, and thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And also thank you for your service to the country on the federal end.
Thank you.
All the best. Stay with us as State of Affairs continues right after this. New Jersey voters will soon decide who will be New Jersey's next governor after Chris Christie. Now, my job is to ask the candidates the tough questions that you want answered. So follow me on Twitter @Steve Adubato and post the number one question that you want me to ask New Jersey's next governor. State of Affairs is pleased to welcome New Jersey's first Lieutenant Governor, the 33rd Secretary of State, elected in 2013. But first time, 2010.
No, I was going to say.
Don't worry, I'll get it right. I've interviewed you too many times. That's why we're too familiar.
But not in this context.
Everybody knows who you are. Kim Guadagno's in the house.
There you go.
State of Affairs. Hey, how do you like this?
This is beautiful.
Nice,
This
right?
is beautiful. Very, very nice. Absolute and convenient.
Right? It's beautiful. Right. You're running for governor.
I am.
Because?
I am running for governor because I think I can do better. I think we need lower taxes, we need to make New Jersey affordable again, and we need to fight for the middle class. And that's me. I'm a working mom. I'm a military mom. I'm a person who's worked in this administration for 8 years and talked to thousands of people over those 8 years, and I know they can't make ends meet, and I think I can help them do that.
Let's get down into some issues that you and I have not talked about before. One of the things we talk about a lot is business. We'll get to that in just a little bit. This pension crisis that you think about a lot, you've been part of this administration for a long time. The governor's made, as part of this $30 billion?
$35 billion and change.
Okay, so there's a $2.5 billion.
Big change, millions in change.
Yeah, not small change.
Yeah.
So the governor has proposed a $2.5 billion commitment to pay into this pension fund. That's a big number by anyone's standards. However, this hole in the pension crisis for public employees is huge.
Right.
What would you do right now to close that gap so that New Jersey's fiscal underpinnings would be a lot stronger than it is, and that pension fund is better than it is right now? Because it's horrible.
Well, you know what it is. It's insolvent. So we all know it's insolvent, not because of a Republican problem, not because of a Democrat, or you could say it's because of all of our fault.
Yep.
But it was in that shape when we came in. This administration has made the largest number of payments to the pension. I think it's double whatever the last 5 governors have done. But it's still insolvent, so we need to fix it. So you're right. I'll tell you what I did when I was in the sheriff's office. I'll give you the same conversation to you.
In your previous job?
In my previous job, I was the sheriff. I had 8 labor unions. And the big issue was the pension payment. And the answer I gave to them is, don't believe me, I'm management. Don't believe your labor leaders because they have other interests. Go back to your own accountant and ask your accountant if that pension is going to be there when you retire. And if the answer to the question is no, then let's come back and let's talk about how we fix it. And let's fix it in a way that's acceptable to you, the public pensioner, who's going to have to live with it. So that's the way I would attack it at a 30,000-foot level. I know in Trenton right now they're talking about putting the lottery in it and increasing the value, the asset value from 49% to 65%. I hope they can do that. There's a lot of complicated constitutional issues.
You would agree with the governor on that? The governor says, let's take the lottery funds, put it into that?
I think I think it's a good start.
It's a good start. But it's not, we need to go much further than that. Do you believe that public employees, either those who are in the system right now or those who are coming into the system, that the state should renegotiate those contracts as it relates to health care benefits as well as retirement benefits?
Well, I don't think there's an alternative. This is what's happening right now.
There's no alternative? Phil Murphy sat here and said, absolutely off the table, can't do it. State has to find other revenues. It has to be off the table for now.
He said that this year when he's running for office. When
he's sitting right there.
When he's in the pocket of every special interest group in New Jersey.
What does that mean, in the pocket?
NJEA endorsed him. PBA endorsed him. Name me a special interest that hasn't endorsed him, except for the Chamber of Commerce. So wait,
Lieutenant Governor, that doesn't mean being in the pocket to get their endorsement.
Let me answer the first question.
Go ahead.
Let me answer the first question, which is the pension issue, right?
Ahead.
If you're being told, if he tells you he can make a full pension payment, which is $5 billion this year, plus or minus some millions.
A lot of money.
A lot of millions. And a $10 billion health care payment this year, that's $15 billion.
Out of a $35 billion budget.
We started with that $35 billion baseline. Just answer one question. Which schools are you going to close? Because you will have to in order to pay for the pension. Or which, and you still won't have enough money, and which hospitals are you going to close because you're going to have to pay for the pension? It's a toss-up. This is the conversation. This is why I say, when I met with my sheriffs, don't believe management, don't believe labor, go back to your own accountant. If the money's not going to be there when you retire, which is the path we're on now, then let's come back and figure out how to protect the public sector unions who believe they were getting a pension when they signed on. Because you know what's happening? I'm interrupting you again. You know what's happening is, right now, we're hiring teachers and telling them there's going to be a pension. We know it's a lie.
Let me ask you something. Whether you got the endorsement of the teachers union or any other public employee union, would you tell them exactly what you're telling them right now?
I have. I screened with the NJEA. I told them exactly the same thing.
Whether you thought you were going to get the endorsement or not, you said the same thing.
I want to sit down and talk to them.
By the way, NJEA is a big supporter of public broadcasting, to fully disclose. You just went and said what you just said.
Absolutely.
Was it a good conversation back and forth?
It was a healthy conversation back and forth. Yeah, sure. Because that's the major problem right now. People need to accept that it's insolvent. They need to accept that we need to fix it.
Define insolvent so everyone understands it.
That the money's not going to be there when you retire.
Just not going to be there.
Not going to be there. Now, I said 12 years. The Byrne Commission, Healy Commission said 12 years.
You're talking about Tom Byrne, Democrat, who headed up the commission.
The bipartisan commission to talk about how we fix this thing. They said 12 years, so that was 2 years ago, so 10 years left. The NJEA, when I was there, was talking like 20. I said, okay, I'll take the middle.
Wow.
Still, the pension's not going to be there. And you're hiring teachers and police officers and career firemen right now, promising them a pension that we know will not be there. And that, to me, is offensive. That should offend everyone. So let's sit down and talk about it. Let's look at the lottery. Let's see if we can't fully fund it. And you know what could happen. The governor's funded, what, I think 2.5. Tom Byrne came out last week and said if we just made some adjustments in the health care, and I'm sure it's more than just some, because it would close the gap, and you could put another 2.2
I want to get to some other issues.
2.2 in. That's $5 billion. That's a full pension payment.
All right.
But they're going to have to negotiate on the back end, the health care side.
Are you going to let me get another question?
No, it's my interview.
Here we go.
We wanted to talk policy.
That's what happens.
There you
You got to
go.
get into the weeds a little
Yeah.
bit. All right, how about this? The school funding situation.
Yeah.
Many communities across the state are saying, you know what? We're getting shortchanged.
Right.
Our property taxes are going through the roof.
Right.
What would you do other than just saying get those communities more money? Because where's that money coming from?
Day one, what I would do.
If you were governor.
There's something, when I become governor, day one, there's something called adjustment aid. There's $560 million, separate from the school funding formula, that we give out to 180 districts in the state of New Jersey every year. $560 million. In 2 of those districts, Hoboken and Jersey City, we all know they're overfunded. Even they admit.
I mean, they get more state aid than they should?
They get more state aid than they should. I would zero out that money right now.
I mean, give them nothing?
No. The
that
adjustment aid.
particular rate, I'm sorry. Okay.
Adjustment aid. Day one. This is a long-term fix.
Got
but
it.
Day one, I would take that adjustment aid and right-size it. All of the overfunded groups in that pocket, I would take that money and put it in the underfunded. And we all know where the underfunded is. Talk to anybody. So the problem we have in New Jersey is the following. It's pretty simple. You got kids going to school up in Phillipsburg in trailers for 30 years. And they're an Abbott district, or a formerly Abbott district. 30 years,
They're not
these
rich.
kids, well, forget being rich, they're kids. They're learning algebra.
Right.
For 30 years, they're going into classrooms in trailers, while exactly at the same time, in another town in Monmouth County, you got AstroTurf on a football field, and you have state-of-the-art aquatic center. That tells you everything you need to know.
There's no equality.
Well,
there's no equity.
It's you need to right-size it.
All right, let's try this. Getting the economy of the state back on track, you say?
It's on track.
Improving our economy.
No, wait, no, it's on track. We started at 9.8%.
In terms of unemployment.
Unemployment. We're now at 4.4%, which is 4 points, depending on what day it is, below the national average. And we have more people working in New Jersey today than the national average. How much more on track do you want to get?
You don't like the idea of renovating the State House, do you?
I hate the idea of renovating the State House.
But the governor says we need to do that, and a lot of people go down to the State House, go, look at this place.
Well, I don't have to always agree with everything the governor says.
I didn't say you did, but on this particular issue, people look at it and they go, you know what? This is not commensurate with the state of New Jersey and what we should have.
I understand that completely, and so let's fix what we have to fix. But it's like you. Do you fix your home if you don't have the money to fix it?
You don't think it's a high enough priority?
It's not a priority. It's a mixed-up priority, and I'll tell you why. Because that State House is going to cost $300 million to renovate. I'm not quite sure where they're getting the numbers, and I'm not quite sure where they're getting the money to pay for that. But set all that aside, we have the highest foreclosure rate in the country. We have 1 million people going to bed at night, every night in New Jersey, not knowing where their next meal is coming from. Is renovating the State House the first item on your agenda?
Would it be yours?
Renovating the State House? No,
Top
stop
5,
right away.
top 10?
No.
Couple more. What would you say, the Trump administration on health care?
Yes.
They passed on this. They did not pass the repeal and replace.
Right.
You know they're going to try it again. Are
Right.
they on the right track doing that?
Well, let me tell you a conversation I had with a congressman who will go nameless.
A Republican or Democrat?
A Republican who...
In the delegation?
Yeah, in New Jersey.
Go ahead.
Who, the conversation I had with him as he was on his way to the inauguration, I said, so what are you going to do on day one with Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
Minute and a half left. Go
He
ahead.
said, we're going to defund it. I said, great. Let me tell you what happens next. In New Jersey, 530,000 people are suddenly without health care. And because we cut charity care in response to the expanded Affordable Care Act, the hospitals will fall in on themselves because everybody will now go to the hospitals. There's no charity care for those hospitals, and we will lose insurance for 530,000 people in New Jersey. Totally unacceptable. Find another plan.
The president's on the wrong track on this, isn't he?
On that one, I don't think it's on any track right now, as far as I can see.
If they get back on.
Well, what they have to do is fix the business, either change it all up, repeal and replace, and take care of those 530,000.
You didn't vote for Donald Trump, did you?
I did not vote for Donald Trump.
Not a fan?
I campaigned for Donald Trump because there's two people here, right? I'm the leader of my party as a Republican, and I'm a woman who...
Last question.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. The woman who...
Who believed that he had crossed the line on some of the things.
Got it. Number one leadership lesson you have learned in your life that you would bring into the governorship. 30 seconds left.
The number one leadership is to close the loop. I've read that somewhere before. Right? I do my homework. Close the loop?
Are you trying to say you're quoting from my book, Lessons in Leadership?
I think I am.
Are you trying to...
Yeah.
It's working. So, listen, Lieutenant Governor, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Wish you and all the candidates running for governor the best.
Thank you.
On State of Affairs.
We'll see you again?
Thank you. Okay. Yes, thank you. See you next time on State of Affairs.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey Resources, the law firm of Gibbons PC, Horizon, NJM, International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, the Northeast Regional Council of Carpenters, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey.
Together, we're beating cancer. Together, we're unlocking the mysteries of the brain. Together, we're changing the way healthcare is provided, delivered, and imagined. Welcome to RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey's most comprehensive healthcare system, with 41,000 medical professionals serving millions of people throughout New Jersey. So when it comes to your health and wellness, you're never alone. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.